Welcome to Innovative Strategies with Bill Hasse. Innovative Strategy is a show designed to help people with their business and personal financial literacy, but not in the way that you have known. This is not your grandpa's financial literacy, as Bill uses his 30-plus years in the financial industry to stretch your financial box from, let's say about a 30,000-foot view of things. Bill and his guests have helped hundreds of clients achieve and surpass their financial goals. If you have any questions, please email Bill at Billhasse, that's Bill at BillHaase.com, or reach out to him right here at 216cement@gmail.com. Do not adjust your hashtag pocket computers, right? This is not Friday morning, but it's a special edition of Innovative Strategies with Bill Hasse coming to you midday Wednesday. Why?
We're back on Wednesdays.
Why? Well, we missed Wednesday, and heck, we've got a special guest. So.
We used to be on Wednesdays for almost 3 years.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're back on Wednesday doing a live show. We're doing some coverage because Fridays are challenging going at this time of year, but so we do have a special edition today. This is a very special guest we have coming all the way from Jerusalem. My good friend Steve Schwartz, who is the International Director Resource Development for the Herzog Hospital, which you may or may not have heard of, but over in Jerusalem, right. It's I believe the third largest hospital, around since 1894, dealing in the geriatric mind. Yeah. Which covers a lot of different bases, and we'll let Steve jump in right now. And thanks for coming on board. We really appreciate it.
No, Bill, it's my pleasure, and I appreciate you guys. Just adjusting to the time schedule, which is an 8-hour difference between Chicago and Israel.
How did the markets end up today?
Did the Cubs win?
Wasn't there a movie that someone knew the future? Yeah, Back to the Future or something?
Yeah, something like that.
Predict what was going to happen? Well, okay.
Yeah, anyway. We would have all loved to have kind of lived through that a little bit, predicting the future. But
look, I really appreciate the time. In a way, Bill.
Oh, don't freeze on us now. Sometimes that happens. Listen, he's over in Jerusalem. We'll get him back. Not a problem. There he is.
We're back.
All right.
Okay. How you and I met highlights the international aspect of business, friendships, and so on and so forth. Correct. Some months ago, a gentleman that I knew through another person introduced us by email. And we started talking. And the reason you connected with me led to a variety of other scenarios, which leads us to where we're sitting right now. A few words about me, and then we'll run into various perspectives. I'm basically an international marketing and salesperson. Have done that my entire career. However, instead of using my skills in the private sector, where I could have made a lot of money. In fact, one company I worked for when I got out of college and I decided this is not for me, they wound up going public. So, I could have been wealthier than I am. Instead, I decided to use my skills for the nonprofit sector. We all support various volunteer groups, charities, whether it's the American Red Cross or the Salvation Army or your local hospital, whatever it might be. And for me, that's been very, very rewarding. I'm originally, as you might be able to tell, a New Yorker. But some 36 years ago, I realized that one of the few centers of the world will be Israel.
Oh.
That was before people were talking about startup nation. People were talking about a global economy. I now, for the last 26 years, I've represented this Herzog Hospital in Jerusalem, and to show you how marketing a good idea can really reach people. Fine, this Herzog Hospital has been around since 1894. First 75 years, it was purely a psychiatric hospital. And then as people got older and there weren't specialty hospitals for geriatrics, we became more a geriatric psychiatric hospital. No one heard of us, okay, because we did not do international marketing. I took over and, beginning the focus was on the States and then Canada and then the UK. Certain collaborations developed, which opened up the entire Latin American market for us. I had never had any desire to go to anywhere in Latin America. Maybe I was in Tijuana once. I have now been to every, right? I've now been into every Latin American country except Chile on business. And when I say business, I'm talking about representing this Herzog Hospital, whether it be marketing, whether it be sales, which when I say sales for nonprofit, we are talking about fundraising.
Yes.
And that led to collaborations where we've had, it's about 20 collaborations to date with hospitals and universities around the world, ranging from the Albert Einstein Medical Center in Sao Paulo.
We froze again. Oh, there we go.
I'm sorry. I'm back. Okay.
You're back.
And the illnesses we treat are all the illnesses today that scare the bejibbers out of everybody. We're not a general hospital. We don't have surgery. We don't have an emergency ward. We're the place where if you have hip surgery or a stroke, you come to us for rehab. And within 30 days, we're putting you back on your feet.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
We're not sending you to a nursing home. We're not sending you with an aid and so on. And literally today, coincidentally, I met a woman who 4 months ago had a stroke. And for the past 4 months, a serious stroke. And for the past 4 months, she's been in our rehab center. In 3 days, she's being released as a fully functioning, independent woman to her home.
Wow.
Yeah. See, we need more of that because, Steve, I've experienced this. So my mother has had dementia, Alzheimer's for at least the last 9 years that she's been in assisted living, and much longer than that. I can go way back and think of times, but so this affects a lot of people. One thing I wanted to point out though too is you're out there fundraising, and that is a charge of the hospital. That's a requirement, is it not, of the hospital, that it has to raise X amount of funds for expansion, for growth, for
absolutely.
Okay.
And that has nothing to do wherever that hospital is. Okay, that hospital could be in Ghana, Africa. It could be in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Hospitals, you go by any hospital or university, what do you see? People's names all over the departments, and because they dropped a few $1 million as a tax deductible donation. And whereas we don't exist on through fundraising, it's more for special projects, capital, and so on and so forth. The way it works in Israel is we have HMOs, if you will, socialized medicine.
Okay.
Someone automatically is entitled to full hospitalization care with no copayment. No copayment. Okay. Over the years, you may be paying taxes into a system, but here, this woman I'm talking about, she paid maybe 5-10% of miscellaneous expenses.
Okay.
And that's not to go into the problems of healthcare, because folks, whether they be in the States or wherever that your listeners are, there are numerous problems with healthcare today.
Yeah. Well, we don't have a week show time to cover all of those
Right. Okay.
issues.
Exactly.
Because I could.
Yeah.
If you're talking about big pharma, Merck just spent 2 years ago $500 million to do clinical trials on the magic Alzheimer's drug.
Mm.
Passed phase 1, passed phase 2, failed phase 3. Okay. Now, you and I spoke on the side in previous Zoom conversations about Alzheimer's. The fact is that 65% of Alzheimer's, which is really dementia, Alzheimer's is one of 25 different forms of dementia. Yep. 65% is misdiagnosed as dementia when it's not. Okay. The costs here, I even have it here. The costs,
I guess I'm wrong about Biden. Never mind.
Yeah.
Don't worry about Biden. 34 million victims of Alzheimer's and dementia. 5 to 6 million live in the U.S.
Wow.
The cost is $400 billion to take care of them. Much more so than cancer care. All right.
So it's a machine.
It's how can I put it? It's the lack of education. Okay. I'll give you an example, and I have numerous examples like this. And if anything comes out of this conversation, I hope you'll listen. Share with people about how you can prevent getting Alzheimer's. Right? But I'll give you the following example. There was an 80-year-old woman hospitalized at a general hospital in Israel. She was ranting and raving and screaming. So they had to tie her arms down to the bedposts.
Mm-hmm.
Because she had Alzheimer's. She was acting out.
Yeah. Well, we were taught that that's an advanced stage of Alzheimer's.
Listen, let me finish.
Okay.
That's my point. Okay. Hold on.
Nice.
Nope, that's just my reminder for you. 80-year-old woman tied down in the bed, screaming. They put the Alzheimer's label on her head. They said, okay, she's what they call a bed blocker. You know, and the same thing in the States. You have a patient who's got pneumonia, the insurance company will pay X. If it's a gallbladder surgery, they'll pay Y, a lot more. So, you know, in this hospital, this woman they could have been making more money on that bed.
Right.
They sent her to us because she had all the symptoms. She was 80, she was carrying on, and so on and so forth. We did a series of tests on her because we invest in our patients. We're a 600-bed hospital today. And it turned out this woman did not have Alzheimer's. She had a combination of a urinary tract infection, a thyroid problem, and a vitamin deficiency. We treated all of those. 2 weeks later, this 80-year-old Alzheimer's patient went home totally healthy and wound up volunteering in the same department where she was hospitalized. All right. Now,
that's incredible.
But that's just one of many stories.
Sure.
Alzheimer's, dementia is, you know, and you touched upon it in the beginning, that with geriatric and mental health, one of the problems with, let's call it medical care, especially of neurologists. First of all, your average 50, 60-year-old neurologist was not in medical school when Alzheimer's was even beginning to be noted.
Okay.
But there are two, you know, what do we always hear? Well, the person has plastic on the brain. Now, our neurologists are called behavioral neurologists because it's a combination of behavior and a physical situation. Most neurologists will look at one or the other. And not to take anything away, and I'm not talking about this is anywhere in the world, that I'm not taking anything away from neurologists. It's a hard work and so on. Our intake for the first time is 45 minutes with every patient. Okay. A doctor in the States will spend 4 to 5 minutes with a patient because he's getting paid by volume on insurance payments.
Yep.
So that person doesn't have a chance. So when I go around the world giving my talks, I always point out the 10, 12, what we call tips to prevent Alzheimer's. Those include, sure, your physical stuff, you're doing your crossword puzzles, you're being physically active. Thyroid is a major problem. Urinary tract is a major problem. But then there are the non-physical, and not even it's psychological. We're talking about the meaningfulness in life, volunteering, doing something with your time after you retire instead of sitting in front of Netflix. Okay?
Huge.
Right? And
Say that again. Say that again.
Okay. The meaningfulness in life, when you retire, or even before you retire, you want to have satisfaction for what you're doing.
Yep.
That, I won't go into chemistry, but that releases a variety of chemicals in your body that protect you from plasticity of the brain, confusion, cognitive issues, and so on and so forth. Yes, people are going to have cognitive issues. All right, people are going to forget things. I mean, you know, it's for me, it's pathetic that everybody has been trained to say, "Oh my God, I forgot something. I'm losing my memory. I must have Alzheimer's."
Yeah. I'm getting old, so bear with me.
Not true. Not true. Okay. I'm sure you know plenty of 80 and 90-year-olds who are very, very active. Many of them. We have a doctor.
Let me share that story real quick.
Please go ahead.
When we first met, it wasn't, Steve, tell me about who you are, what you're doing, and everything else. No, you came on. First thing you said to me was, Bill, I looked at your LinkedIn page, and boy, there's a lot of different things we could do. You picked out the very small thing at the very bottom of my LinkedIn page to talk about first, and that was something to do with the NFL, and we can get to that later.
Right.
You know, but, and I'm losing my, I'm having a senior moment.
No, you're not.
I call it sometimers disease. Sometimes I remember, sometimes I don't.
Yeah, but the question is, do you remember when you don't remember?
I do, yeah. And my wife reminds me.
But I can't. I'm trying to remember the story.
No wife jokes. That's it.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the story. The first conversation we
picked
had.
out the smallest thing on the on the LinkedIn. You said.
Yeah, well, that was the NFL thing, but and it was leading up to the rest of the conversation we were having. But and now I'm misplacing it in my mind.
I'll try to help you.
I'll be coming over. Oh no, here it is. So one thing you said to me, because I said here, you know, you said, what are you doing? And I explained how I was trying to build this financial literacy program for students and such. And I said, you know, imagine that I'm 62 years old and I'm trying to start building a brand new business that can be global. And you laughed at me and you said, Bill, come on over here. You come over here, I'll throw a party and I'll fill the room up with 80 and 90-year-old guys that'll run circles around you.
Yeah,
that's right.
I do remember. It takes a little bit, you know, to knock the head.
We have two doctors who routinely come to the hospital, are extremely with it. They're both 90 years old.
Wow.
One's an expert in osteoporosis, and one, as odd as it sounds, she's the head of the department for children with chronic respiratory care problems. She's a pioneer in her field and so on and so forth. I just saw her yesterday. And yes, there are plenty of people out there who, you know, and in a way, this kind of stuff resonates for me because, sure, I could have gone into business. I could have gone into the private sector. I could have used whatever skills I have and made a lot of money. It's like my son is very good in sales and he works for a high-tech company. And he's very good, but you know, okay, you sold, you know, gimmick X and it made your company gazillion dollars. When you went home at the end of the day, were you satisfied with yourself?
Right.
Or you looked at your bank account and said, wow, this is great. And look how fancy the office is. And slowly but surely, he also started saying, because, you know, I want to have, first of all, I don't want to work 20 hours a day, which they do in high tech. All right, I want to have a life. But I want to have satisfaction in life. So using you as an example, the hell with 62 years old. You're a teenager still. All right.
Yeah, truly.
Well, I'll tell you.
You know, I'll take it.
Okay, I'll tell you another story in a second. It relates to me. But you're a young guy starting out with a new idea. And come on, give me a break. doesn't that get you going? Doesn't that give you like,
Oh.
wow, look what I'm doing? Whether it's
A
the
whole
literacy
different view.
program, whether it's this show, whether whoever you're reaching, right? Now, you know, that for me, you know, I can almost do this as a volunteer, okay? Because I get so much satisfaction out of it. And, you know, connecting to your program literally today, okay? I had a conversation about doing business in Turkey, and a conversation about doing business in Abu Dhabi. Because in addition to the fundraising, we have 6 patents. We have a patent on a new way to treat Parkinson's, which is now being developed by a pharmaceutical company in the States. We have a patent on a way to treat depression. We have a patent on a way to treat schizophrenia, and so on and so forth. And this is, in a way, this relates to the NFL, but part of it is, and I'll give you an example about how medical research works. We have one of the premier psychiatric departments in Israel, if not in the world. When someone has schizophrenia, they take a whole bunch of medication to control that. However, the medication causes other side effects. I'm not going to go into too much detail of what those side effects are. So our head of psychiatry, this goes back around 12, 13 years ago, says, wait a minute, there's a protein in the body that back in the 1950s was used to treat tuberculosis. I have a theory that this protein, which is called D-serine, D-S-E-R-I-N-E, can negate the side effects of schizophrenia. Now, from the medication of schizophrenia. Now, he tried this, and in fact, it worked. Now, follow the bouncing ball. One of the side effects from taking the medication is serious body trembling.
Okay.
Parkinson's. Now, we're also a geriatric hospital. So from research on schizophrenia, we started using the same concept, the same theory to treat the Parkinson's patients, because we saw in the schizophrenic patients, the Parkinsonian trembling went to 0 in the schizophrenic patients.
Really?
We tried this on the Parkinson's patients, ditto. That's how we wound up getting literally a patent in the US, Canada, the EU, Israel, wherever, you know, etc. So my point is that we need to be educated about our own health and those around us, because there's so much misinformation out there, especially with social media today. And now they're talking about, you know, AI, that, you know, you don't need a therapist anymore. Just plug into AI and it'll tell you what to do. I can tell you, psychiatrists I work with, they say that will lead to suicide. Okay.
Well, I can tell you from personal experiences, you need to do your homework. I agree with you. We talk about this on the show all the time: education, education, education. You know, I learned the hard way with a hip replacement. And doctors like, do you want this hip, which is what has been around forever, or do you want this hip, which is the new wave hip for young active people and so on? And it's like, okay, I realized after I had it done that the doctor was giving me the sales pitch that I'm sure he got from the guy who was selling him that hip product.
Yeah,
that's
and
right.
I had no clues whether it was really a good one or not. And lo and behold, it was recalled. I had to have it taken out, put a new one in.
That's what happened to you?
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Right. So let's step back a moment to being self-fulfilled. My dad is 82 years old, 81, 82 years old. He's been a preacher for 40 plus years, right? And he retired when he was 72. So 10 years ago, he retired. He sat at the house for 3 months and goes, going back to work. I'm like, Dad, what do you mean you're going back to work? He goes, I've been working since I was, 8 years old at a paper route. I had, I worked at my dad's grocery store. I went to school to be an electrical engineer at General Motors. Then I went and got my master's for theology. He goes, I've always been working. That's what I know how to do. And that's what makes me happy. So guess what? At 82 years old, he's still up in the pulpit on Sundays. Now, he's smart enough now to go, I'm not taking part in any of the gook that the church goes through, but I'll show up and preach on Sunday.
Yeah,
Well, you know what? God bless him. God bless
for me,
him.
For the years I was an advisor and we're doing retirement strategies,
Yeah.
that was always one of the questions I had to ask every time is, what are your plans for retirement? Because on Friday, on your last day of work, you're senior executive vice president, global sales or whatever, big Mr. Brady. And then on Saturday, you're Mike Brady.
Yeah.
You don't have a title. You don't see those people anymore. You don't have that the stress. You don't have the obligations. You don't have the work.
So
every day is Saturday, and
but that's what society does to people. Okay,
Yep.
That there's no reason that should happen. Let's say someone stops working. Okay,
Yeah.
That's when you volunteer. You use your skills to volunteer, to hold meaningfulness in life. And I'm not talking about stuffing envelopes. Okay, doing stuff. Now, Ken, I'll give you material for your dad.
Awesome.
Okay. We did a research project at Herzog Hospital that was published in the journal Neurology, which is the top medical journal on the brain.
Yeah.
Okay, which proved the level of a person's spirituality decreases the chances of you getting Alzheimer's.
Wow.
Well, I'm all in.
Not religious observance.
Right.
Spirituality. Okay.
Right.
And that's the message your dad, no doubt, gives. Okay.
Yeah.
He's not telling people to read Psalms. He's saying, look, you probably sat in his church many, many times. And I'd heard his talk. I work with a lot of pastors all over the States. And not to sound too, I can't find the word, but I feel blessed when I'm sitting in a ministry, okay? And I'm a religious Jew, okay?
Yeah.
And I'm sitting in a ministry and I'm hearing someone give the same message, okay? And I'm not talking about, whether it's the Messiah or Jesus. I'm not talking about. I'm talking about what's the value of your life.
Yeah.
Not what's in your bank account and so on and so forth. So, when we're off, I can send you guys a copy of the article and you can do what you want with it. But good for your dad. But he should not that I'm Mr. Advisor here, but he should not just rely on the pulpit. He could be doing other things, whether it be, helping food packages. I don't know what.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. By the way, where does he preach?
What
state?
He preaches in Independence, Iowa, just north of Cedar Rapids there. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Literally today, okay, my world is, I have a lot of fun when I do. Literally today, we're working with several ministries in the States, in Tennessee, Atlanta, Dallas, and outside of Dallas. And literally today, I was talking on Zoom with several preachers involved with this ministry who are very involved with us. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And it hurts me when I see quality people, high level people. And I'm not talking about intelligence. I'm talking about people who are active. And all of a sudden they stop being active because, Bill, like what you said, well, okay, I'm 65. I got to retire. I'm going to sit in my rocking chair. And then you get all the jokes about the wife saying, get out of the house, go walk the dog or something, right? Etc. And it's very sad because, one of my joke stories, whatever you want to call it, is it's great having grandkids because now I can finally act my age. 6 years old, 7 years old, and no one's going to say, Steve, you're crazy. No, now I'm in my comfort zone. All right. And grandkids, I don't know where you guys are in your lives, but grandkids, blessings off the charts. Fun.
I'm getting close.
Yeah.
Yeah. You told me when we spoke. Okay.
We're not there yet. I haven't had any announcements, but no pressure, kids.
Grandchildren.
No pressure.
Grandchildren are God's way of rewarding you for not killing your own.
I did
Right? That's-
just a few days ago retire from my financial advising world. I'm no longer in that world and seeking out any clientele there. But so I told my son I was down in Dallas actually this past weekend and just told him, I'm kind of semi-retired now. I'm going to keep doing the show and keep doing some other stuff. But yeah, let's go back to a little bit about the spirituality things, because recently I was introduced to a book by Rabbi Daniel Lapin.
Sure.
Whom you probably may know. I have it here. It's actually Business Secrets from the Bible, and there's a lot of lessons from the Torah that are amazing life lessons. You go back, you talk about charity and the purpose of charity and being involved in charity to keep you busy and active. But charity comes in all different kinds of ways. When you go out and you seek funds, people are giving funds to what they believe is a charity, but really what you're doing with those funds is you're creating a lot of jobs. You're supporting a lot of families, a lot of people,
sure.
And it expands out. And that is as much a form of charity as just giving to, Wounded Warrior Project or something like that. People, I think we don't look at a person who builds businesses and makes a lot of money doing it. We look at them and saying, "Oh, look, they're making a lot of money. He's greedy. He just keeps it for himself." But no, they keep creating businesses that create jobs, that support families, that reach out and support more and more and more people.
Yeah.
That is a form of charity, but we don't look at it that way.
Well, we're taught not to. Yeah.
But anyway,
I'll expand on that. One, and I got this is some more material for your dad, Ken. There's two aspects in, let's call it religious observance. One is prayer, and one is good deeds. Okay, and the good deeds have a stronger impact than the prayer. Okay.
Oh, good.
I
was hoping you'd say that.
Okay. I always, in my head, I remember a couple of years ago, I was walking in the hall down the hospital, and there was a woman in a wheelchair, pushing the wheels to get to wherever she had to get to her bed or whatever. And I was going in that direction. I took the wheelchair, and I pushed her to the room. The woman could not stop thanking me. Now, I don't want to be cruel on mankind, but I don't know. I don't want to guess what the percentage of people would be that would just walk by this woman, and see her pushing the wheels, and these are things that, look, our nature is not really, but where we can do good, however it is, using your example, Bill, or how can I put it? Helping the next person, whether it's helping the little old lady or man cross the street, or any million examples.
Yeah.
And again, Kent, you shouldn't have told me about your dad, because you're putting me in that direction. I'm coming up with material for the next talk.
He didn't point out the fact that Kent here is a deacon as well.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, how would I know that? Right now, I
right.
know Kent by email address. That's about it.
That's it. So as we're talking about this and on innovative strategies, I think that it's fantastic. Now, in your studies, does the electronic world, and we want to first of all thank everybody who's tuning in and who's going to watch this and share it.
Yeah.
But does that have any effect on dementia, Alzheimer's? Staring at your pocket computer the entire day, because here in America, you think people are walking around praying because their heads are down all the time.
Right, you're right.
Yeah. They don't see what's going on in the world around them.
Correct.
It's a good thing you finished the sentence, because I was going to take what you said in a totally different direction, which I'll still take it in that direction. But forget old all the studies are showing all these 15-year-old kids who live on their cell phones, okay, they're going to have major social issues when you're in 30s, 40s, and 50s because they're going to have to talk to people. Okay, I mean, I joke around with my son that he's communicating with his friends by WhatsApp, and they voice each other back and forth. I said, pick up the damn phone.
Right.
It's a little faster. Whatever.
Oh.
But
with all the apps out there, because that's what happens. Is even in business, it's like, hey, you got to get on this app, and I can communicate with it on this one, and then I can communicate with you on this one, and then everybody's like spending their whole lives managing all these forms of communication when they're not actually communicating.
That's right. But I want to, follow. I was going to joke around. You can't say, man, you must have planted this question until you finished it with the mobile phones, and this relates a little bit to the NFL that we touched upon way back. There's something, well, we all know about MRIs and CAT scans and PET scans.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
There's something called transcranial stimulation. It's a relatively new technology out there, 5-10 years. And basically what it is you could put the equivalent, if you will, of a swimming cap on your head with 30, 40 electrodes attached. Hook that up to a laptop computer. And because the medical knowledge has mapped out the entire brain, we know what part of the brain causes depression, what part of the brain causes various other things. Okay? So we're able to say, okay, this person, and it applies to Alzheimer's. We've published studies on how this works on Alzheimer's. But let's say use depression, that we know one part of the brain is what generates depression or highs and lows. So we can identify it because the electrode is connected to that part of the brain. But better than identifying, we can then, the system gives a minimal electric shock to that part of the brain. I'm not talking about one fell over the cuckoo's desk, okay? That the person doesn't even feel it, that will trigger and help get rid of the depression. And now that I'm thinking of it, I want to give another example of how dementia, Alzheimer's, memory problems is totally misdiagnosed. A bunch of years ago, I had two people, husband and wife, come from Toronto, supporters of Herzog. They were visiting Israel. They wanted to see Herzog. Great. They have a sailboat in Toronto. I never knew there was a yacht club in Toronto, but I was on their sailboat in Toronto, and they're both in their 70s, and you saw the husband and wife working together on this significant, sailboat, right? So I'm worried about my wife. She's starting to forget things. She doesn't remember the way she once. And I saw this woman as a very active woman only a year previous. So I called my neurologist, this behavioral neurologist, and I said, do me a favor, check out this woman. And blah, blah, blah. Very long story, very short. He says, was an MRI ever done of her brain? And Toronto has top medical services. Best hospitals, some of the best hospitals in the world. And they say, no, we send her for an MRI. It turned out she had a blood clot in her brain, which affects memory. We gave this woman on the spectrum of Alzheimer's with memory loss blood thinners, and in 2 weeks she was back to herself.
Yeah, I too much of that goes on in so much of the medical world.
My point is that there is compassion out there. There are good doctors out there. There are good nurses. I mean, this woman that I saw today was being released after 4 months. She couldn't stop telling me, well, the staff was fantastic. They did this for me, they did that for me, blah, blah, blah. When I go around speaking around the world, whatever, one of the messages I always leave is, be educated about yourself. Don't go into, fright mode. Oh my God, I forgot my keys again. Okay. Right. Or, oh my God, whatever it might be, depression, anything in that spectrum. And sure, unless it's like a heart attack, all right, something really physical. But if it's don't just say, hey, the doctor knows, and I got to listen to the doctor. My mom's 91, and she lives in New York. I happened to be there about 4 or 5 years ago when she was going to her doctor, her regular GP who knew her forever, and I was seeing some things that were worrying me about her, like dementia kind of stuff. So I go to the doctor on the side. Could you just check this out? So to me, this both shows the problem, but also amuses me. He says, okay, Mrs. Schwartz, I'm going to tell you 5 words. I'm going to wait 5 minutes, and I want you to repeat all 5 words. My mom, at that point, she's 85, let's say, aced it. Steve Schwartz, the son, remembered 2 of the 5 words. And that's a typical Alzheimer's test, which is pathetic. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, you want to change the where we're going with this, Bill? Go ahead, it's your show.
Well, I'm still thinking about that cap and putting it on a woman, and then maybe we could learn all about what makes women tick. But I have a burning question. So we see on TV a lot of commercial for Prevagen, a drug that is now marketed as, oh, I started taking this and now I think clearly, I remember things where I wasn't before I took it and everything. And I'm sitting here going, I thought Prevagen was a drug that was for some other medical purpose and it was just remarketed. These types of drugs, they don't really affect your brain, do they? I know you're not a doctor, but you're in the world of, are there?
Look, whenever I'm in the States, sadly, in a sad way, I'm amused when I see all the drug commercials on TV, for whatever it treats, okay? And then at the end, it says, but if you have any of these side effects, suicide, tell your doctor before you kill yourself. That's a unique problem to the States. You don't have that anywhere in the world. Pharmaceutical. I mean, I just read that Biden is trying to have Medicare renegotiate with pharmaceutical companies or something like that.
For the top 10 medications.
And they're pushing back because they want to make their money.
Right.
It's and you gave the example, your own personal example about the hip. Okay.
Yeah.
The representative. Look, what's it called? I just saw it like for 3 minutes. My wife watches Netflix. There was this whole thing about the family, the company was at Purdue with the opioid crisis and so on and so forth, and how people just kept taking it, and they were interviewing the pharmaceutical representatives who went to the doctors and said you should prescribe this, and they highlighted these were all these very sexy women, and they were making money hand over fist, and that's the name of the game. And it goes back to, hey, why are we on this earth? We're on this earth just to make money. We're on this earth to satisfy ourselves. We're on this earth to leave an imprint. I mean,
Well, it's unfortunate that
we got to speak to Ken Stat again because he may have the answer.
Well, the answer is always follow the money when you're trying to figure something out. But let's go back to my hip then, and because so I get this hip. A couple of years later, I find out it's being recalled because one of the side effects it can have, it was a metal hip, is it can mimic Alzheimer's. The metal can get into your blood and it mimics Alzheimer's. Now, you don't actually have Alzheimer's, but I gone on and seen a couple of video clips of people who had experienced that. I did not have that personal experience. I had cluster headaches on and off for 6 years. Wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. But you have these different side effects, and the medical world also says, oh, it's because of this, because of that, or whatever, and you don't know. And you go on, and I got involved in a class action lawsuit, and I won one of the biggest payouts that had ever been paid out.
Smart guy.
let me tell you, that payout was extremely small. And by the time I got done paying everybody off, it didn't even cover my costs, out of pocket costs for the next surgery. They have
But
it replaced.
it's not only that.
So the
Forget the
company
money.
made their
How
money.
you suffered because of that. You had a period of time where you were really suffering because they put the wrong thing into you.
Right. And they wind up still making all their money, and now they're going to make it double their money because now they have to go back and get it done again. And and then insurance is saying, well, we're only covering part of that.
I'm going to go with what one of the founders of the station always said. Life is a journey. Life is an adventure to be lived. It's not a problem to be solved. And I think too many times throughout life, we as human beings are always trying to solve life. That's why I go back to what you said about a half hour ago, is you got to find that fulfillment, that joy. And that makes all the difference in the world.
Yep.
I love now watching young people, old people, just watching people as they struggle to try to figure out life instead of just living it.
Yeah, we do spend a lot of time there.
Yeah.
We try to solve problems, though. It's not solving. I don't know. Is it solving life or is it solving problems within life?
Yes.
Yeah, but see, that's where they get stuck. All right. At least me, my DNA from wherever it comes from, my objective is to enjoy life, not to figure life out. Okay. You know what? The 40-year-old woman, not even the 40-year-old can have cancer and die from cancer, and the 80-year-old can have the same cancer and survive.
Yep.
Yeah.
If I speak to a lot of I work with a lot of psychiatrists around the world, and I always ask them the following question. I said, is there medical literature out there that talks about why the natural proclivity for a person is depression? Not to wake up in the morning and say, well, it's going to be a great day. No, you know what? Shoot, I got to do this today. I got to do, and so on. And they told me, no, there's no rhyme or reason why the vast majority of people, are saddened by stuff that may only be 5% of their life, but that's what they focus on.
Yeah.
Well, you and I could have a long conversation.
I'm sorry.
I can go down a different road in that kind of conversation, going back to the days of how we're raised and
Absolutely.
the way we're taught things. Learn from your mistakes. Not not just it's a lot of negativity, and growing up, we spend a lot of time trying to please others, especially our parents. And then there are other things that can go on. So we could go through a whole show, but we're down to about 4 minutes here. And this is kind of flown by. So we're definitely going to have to get you back. But this is interesting conversation.
Yeah.
We've been all over the boards here a little bit. Can I ask you something about HRSAC?
Please.
So from what I'm hearing, what I understand is the hospital world is moving into the tourism world, because there's specialty hospitals all over the world. And in the US, like when they travel to the US and when they go to the hospital, they bring families. Families need hotels, restaurants, distractions, whether that's shopping or parks and things. And so I've learned or heard that this is kind of what is happening. I don't know if you see that going on, if that's part of your world.
Look, let's put it this way. Again, because we're not in the States, but we're more the rest of the world, so to speak. Thailand and India do monster business on medical tourism. Monster.
Yeah.
They got billions of dollars. HRSAC doesn't specifically do it because, frankly, we're at capacity all the time. We're building a new building to add another 600 beds and so on. But there is one hospital in Israel that markets it. how successful they're one of the best hospitals in Israel. How successful they are financially, I have no idea.
Right.
Clearly, it's a
I
financial.
thought about going to India.
It's, for all the reasons you just said. That it's
Once I knew I had to get a hip, I looked at going to India because the cost was so much less.
Voila, see,
But then you don't know what's the cleanliness like. What's the whole process like? Are the doctors well educated? Are they? And there's a lot of
spicy food.
There's a lot of questions because we Americans have a tendency to feel that we have the best and that we're number one at everything. And until we learn we're not. It's and we're constantly taught that we're not, but we still don't believe it anyway. But
I'm not gonna as a American, okay. I'm not even going to relate to that.
That's right. That's right.
All right, we'll let you off the hook on that one. But what a pleasure it's been to have this conversation. And I know we were kind of all over the boards here, but we're talking a lot about geriatric mind health, mental health, and the different ways in which you help, in that world a lot. And Herzog doing that, it's just amazing. We didn't even touch on a lot of the things I know Herzog gets involved in from what my research and such. But Steve, I can't thank you enough for coming on and having this conversation. And
my pleasure. And if you want me to send you this list I have of Alzheimer's tips, I can send it to you by email and you can share it with your listeners.
Yep, that'd be great.
Ditto, I'll send the neurology article about spirituality. And shoot me an email, whatever else we spoke about that you want, material. Because
Absolutely.
Odds are I'll have the material for you to do what you want with it, whether it's for the show or whatever.
Well, I appreciate that tremendously because we will bring that onto the show and we'll get you back on as well.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
But thank you because I know I need those tips because obviously it's obviously is it in my blood? Because
next question.
Yeah.
Right.
I think Scotch is in your blood. That's very.
All right, I'll be right there. I have staff meetings, okay, where I say, okay, it's time for some Balvenie. It's time.
That's right.
One of my staff people just brought in a really nice bottle. I said, okay, that's for special. Let's put it on the side. So my staff meetings are, yes, thank you very much.
Yeah, that's
whatever you're drinking. Next time I'm in Chicago, we're going out drinking.
Perfect.
You got him.
Listen, for all of us here at 21.6 The Net, we can't thank you enough for your time this afternoon on a special edition of Innovative Strategies, kind of a meeting of the minds with our good friend Steve Schwartz from Jerusalem and the Herzog Hospital over there.
Yeah.
We'll get him back, but tune in every Friday for more Innovative Strategies. Until then, what we ask is for you to be good, but more importantly, be good to one another.
Thank you all for listening in. Steve, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, gentlemen. It's been a pleasure.